Thanks, Chrissy. Thanks, listeners and viewers. Thanks, Vertical Events and Stuart, for inviting me down here. It's very exciting to be up on the podium again, and I guess we're in another boom. When they start rolling me out, things are happening. Press this one forward. Just a disclaimer as we quickly get through that. Yeah. Green button. Thanks, Stewie. Okay, here we go. All right. NWM20 is a diversified West Australian-based exploration company in Tier 1 jurisdiction. Our flagship project is the Carboid Nickel project. It's a nickel copper project. It's close to Kalgoorlie Boulder, which is my hometown. Grew up in Kalgoorlie. It can't be underestimated how important it is to be in such a location when you're actually operating a junior exploration mining company, as I've been finding out over the last few weeks as we're getting quite active. We've had a bit of success with our T5 project, about 1.1 kilometres north of the old Carboid Nickel mine, and we've got an experienced board and management team applying our skills to try and unlock what Carboid has historically sort of given people a bit of incentive over the last 50 years, but using a bit of modern geophysics and a bit of modern technology and a bit of modern thinking about what we might find. Neil Hutchinson has recently joined the board. He's been assisting us with the exploration work over the past 12 months at Carboid and particularly T5, and we've also managed to pick up Steve Warriner now from Poseidon. Steve was involved in the recent Golden Swan discoveries at Poseidon, about 30 kilometres away, and he's also had history with the mafic layered intrusion at Radio Hill. So he's going to be an important addition to the team. He's pretty excited to be joining us at this stage. Capital structure for Estrella. We've got 884 million shares on issue, circa market cap at the moment. It's around 90 million, 95 million. Cash at bank's increasing. Over the last few weeks, we've got deep in the money options. 230 million 5-cent exercise options coming through. It's about $11.5 million by June. Cash in bank 3.8 million. You can see our share price appreciation there since we announced the discovery on October the 8th of T5. I can understand why Eddie's left that off the charts that he had, because it would certainly put his charts out of whack. If you invested $10,000 in Estrella in September in our placement, that's now worth in excess of $300,000. And that looks like it'll continue to rise with what we're starting to unlock at T5 and elsewhere. The nickel price obviously has been rising. I've been saying it for years now that we're on the verge of another nickel boom. I was involved in the nickel boom 2004-05 with Niagara, and then obviously that became Poseidon, and we took a company to 780 million market cap and we sold out to Andrew Forrest. And I think maybe where we're situated 30 kilometres north of Poseidon at the moment, the second largest mill infrastructure in Western Australia for nickel sulphides. Maybe I'll get a second chance. So that's where we're located, northeast of Kalgoorlie. There's a lot of infrastructure, obviously service providers at Kalgoorlie that we're tapping into. Even just this morning, we had the need for a 65-tonne crane to actually help move some infrastructure around on site, and dongers and some new exploration camps that we're putting in place to assist the guys going from sort of tent camp to a more semi-permanent camp. And getting a big crane when you're stuck up in the Pilbara or out in the deserts out on the WA border is not something you can do very easily. But in Kalgoorlie Boulder, you can pick up the phone and usually you can have them there in 24 hours. So It's extremely well placed, and as I mentioned, we're only 30 kilometres north of the Blackstone Silver Swan project. We have an MOU in place with Poseidon in regards to treating carboid ores at Silver Swan. We signed that up a while back. We have 3 mining licences and 6 exploration licences covering 250 odd square kilometres. We cover all of the mafic layered intrusion. Mafic layered intrusion is obviously where all the big ore bodies are found in the world, the Voisey Bays and the Nova Bollingers of the world. That's where the big bulk tonnage, massive magmatic sulphide deposits occur. Carboid's history has been around for a while. So carboid was discovered in the nickel boom in the late 1960s. Great Boulder actually discovered the outcropping copper sulphides at surface. Interestingly enough, the station owner, the Tonkins, actually invited Great Boulder out to have a look at what they thought was an interesting area on their station, and they'd pegged some PLs, and Great Boulder had, in their wisdom, had gone out there and had a look and realised that there was a small gap in the PLs and pegged it, which was actually hosted the carboid nickel pipes, and the Tonkins actually missed out. So it was fragmented ownership of the tenements for a period of time until Western Mining sold the project to Defiance in the 80s. Defiance was another junior Calgary company run by ex-Western Mining executives, and Aidan Keogh was in amongst that. I went to school with Aidan's young boy, Nathan and Aidan, but they struggled through, like most junior mining companies, not having enough capital, and they ended up falling through and going through to the dot-com boom and becoming a medical monitors company. And it was sold to Titan Resources in late 2000, or part of the dot-com boom in 2000, when they went into medical monitors, and Titan had just made $20 million out at Radio Hill and knew what mafic layered intrusions were all about, and decided that carboid was potentially a good place to start looking for nickel sulphides again. And at the same time they did that deal, Titan went on to purchase the Widgiemootha North ground at Kambalda and got themselves into a bit of strife. So carboid really did not see any concerted effort for exploration during that period of time, and during the GFC, etc., various assets were acquired by Parlinghurst and the Russians, and were sort of kept in the closet for a long period of time. And then a couple of WA School of Mines lads, AJ and Kabir Osman of Salt Lake Mines, came in and bought the Beta Hunt nickel mine, including the Widgiemootha ground and carboid rocks, and I just so happened to be at the right spot at the right time, 2015, when the nickel price fell away for them and they got themselves into a bit of strife. We ended up purchasing the Carboid Rocks project because I did review it in 2004-05 when I was looking at assets to buy from WMC, and that was one particular project that it did interest us. And then it was sold into by Apollo, our private group, into Estrella in 2017. So carboid itself was mined by WMC. They produced a small amount of ore before the nickel price fell in the 1970s. And what's interesting about that, when you do a desktop study of carboid rocks, you look at it and you go, well, 202,000 tonnes at 1.43% doesn't really excite me in terms of a high-grade nickel sulphide mine. But it's when you delve down into the actual mineralisation and its deposition, you actually see that the massive sulphide is actually very high grade at 6%, 2% copper. And the reason for the dilution is these xenoliths that are all barren throughout the pipes. And obviously mining the nickel sulphide, you have to mine those barren pipes. And that always, that got me really interested, that, it was this rocky road looking material that was pushed up through the country rock, and where did it come from? Where was the source of the massive sulphide? If it's been remobilised, you go back through literature and technical studies, and they say that anywhere between 1 and 20% of a massive sulphide body can be remobilised through metamorphic processes. And I guess if you look at the tonnages of nickel sulphide at the Carboid Rocks mine, you start to get a picture of how enormous that nickel sulphide body might be. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of nickel tonnes potentially as our target. The Carboid project has not been explored thoroughly over the 50 years. We obviously came into the project with a little bit of, I guess, history and exploration and you know, looking at these things, and with modern technology and geophysics, you can now come into these mafic layered intrusive bodies and apply modern geophysics and modern thinking, and that's why I guess we've had these discoveries and they're starting to understand the ore bodies a lot better. So Independence or Serious Resources discovery of Nova Bollinger and some of the other more recent ones, Julimar and Mawson's West, you start to get an industry or a group that actually start to understand these particular ore bodies or these mafic layered intrusives, and then apply modern geophysics and technology to them in that exploration model to try and unlock where potentially more of these things might lie. So we've been doing exactly that at Carboid. We've been unlocking some interesting targets. Our first target obviously was T5 late last year we drilled, but we've been doing some regional surface moving loop EM, and we're generating some interesting targets. Historically they've been geochemical anomalies as well. There's some areas out there that you go out, you look on the ground and you just see copper and nickel gossans, and copper absolutely pervasive through the rocks, and you wonder why it hasn't actually had a deep drill hole in it. Most of the drilling's only been sort of subsurface down to blade refusal or 100 metres. I guess in the 1970s, 1980s, drilling deep diamond holes was quite difficult, and they just didn't persist, or they didn't have the finances to go on with it, or we went through various resources booms and busts that the targets just didn't get a thorough going over. T5 for us was, we moved into in 2018-19. A moving loop program showed that there was a clear target. We went back into T5 and we did get an RC hit. It was, I think, 4 metres at 1.6% at about 180 metres down. But what we wanted to do was really get a better understanding, and what we determined to do was to actually step out and drill, and it was a pretty gutsy move because we only had $1 million in the bank, to drill 3 deep diamond holes, 600 metres, 300 metres either which way, which we thought that the geophysics could actually see between the holes. If there was anything there, we would prove it up, and then we could target it with the more targeted drilling. Well, that is our RC hole. It was 4 metres at 1.6. It was all open. The geochem and the geophysics, the geophysical source from surface said that it was plunging north. So that's hence why we did step out. And we did test and we did drill some deep diamond holes, 28 and 29, as platform holes. And then we drilled hole 30, which was our southernmost stratigraphic hole, and we intersected 2.9 metres of massive sulphide at 400 metres depth, which was quite remarkable when you think it wasn't a targeted hole, it was just purely stratigraphic in nature. And it came up with 2.5 metres at 3.66% nickel. Certainly captured the market's imagination when we released that. I think we went from 1 cent to 25 cents. We're sitting around 12.5 cents today, waiting on more drilling. This is probably a bit outdated. We're sort of talking about 31 there. I can tell you that there's more holes coming. We're certainly drilling around hole 30 with more targeted exploration. We did do downhole geophysics, and we determined that there was a strong geophysical anomaly basically in every direction, was unconstrained. We've now got a few holes into that, and certainly we've released hole 33, which had 25 or 24 metres of mineralisation. We've drilled another few holes and they're coming out shortly, and should be rather interesting to have a look at those when they come out in another few days. So we expanded the drill program immediately. We've currently got 2 rigs on site, increasing the camp, increasing the personnel, increasing the management teams, and that's where we are today. And in the new year, it'll be rather interesting for us. We're well funded, and we're highly leveraged, and we're gunning for a bit of success. It's a pretty exciting time to be an Estrella shareholder. All I can say is strap yourself in. It's going to be very, very interesting times. Thanks very much.
Good on you. Thanks, Chris.